town has grown quiet. Windows begin to look less like windows. They become small squares of light, suspended in the dark. Some are lit from within, with no one behind them. On distant towers, red warning lights blink without sound. If you stare long enough, you may feel that the darkness is not empty. Tonight, I want to tell you 3 accounts about people who looked too carefully into that distance. They were not chasing ghosts. They were only looking out. But sometimes, looking is enough. From the Ghost Files. If you stare into the night, one day it stares back. Tonight, stories of people who looked into the far side of the night. In each account, nothing rushed toward them. Nothing explained itself. The fear came from distance, from silence, from the slow realization that a gaze can travel both ways. Perhaps you have done it too. You turn off the light, stand near the window, and look out across the rooftops. You believe you are alone because your room is dark. But darkness does not only hide you. Sometimes it helps something else see where you are. The first account comes from a man who lived alone in a small city far from the capital. He was a university student then, in an old apartment complex built on a low hill. Behind the building was a vending machine that hummed all night, and beyond it, a narrow stairway led up to the roof. On sleepless nights, he climbed there to breathe the colder air. From that roof, one long road ran straight downhill. The street lamps divided it into pools of light, and at the bottom, beyond the last lamp, the road disappeared into a line of dark houses. He liked standing there after the last train had gone, listening to the city settle. The road looked so far away that it felt safe. Nothing down there could possibly know he was watching from the roof. One humid night, a classmate lent him a pair of binoculars. He brought them to the roof without thinking much of it. Through the binoculars, the downhill road seemed to jump closer. He could see the texture of the asphalt, the white paint at the edge of the curb, one pool of light after another. Then, near the very bottom, something entered the circle of a street lamp. It was small at first, a person perhaps, or something made to resemble one. It did not walk naturally. It crossed the light, vanished into the darkness between lamps, then appeared in the next circle a little closer. He lowered the binoculars. With his bare eyes, he could see nothing. When he looked again, the figure had stopped in the middle of the road. It simply raised one hand, not waving, not beckoning, just holding it up. All the while it looked straight at him up on the roof. He left the roof without remembering how he had taken the stairs. In his room, he shut the door and put a heavy old clothes iron from the kitchen against it, though he knew that made no sense. For the rest of the night, he felt something up above moving as if it were searching. At times, footsteps went back and forth in the stairwell above him. At times, they stopped directly over his ceiling. In the morning, the building manager said no one else had gone to the roof. The lock had not been broken. But on the metal kick plate at the bottom of the rooftop door, there were thin streaks, fresh ones, as if something had dragged hard nails across it from the outside. Or were they in a spot no one inside could have reached? He moved out before the month ended. Years later, he said he still cannot look down a road through binoculars. The second account was told by 2 roommates who lived on the 4th floor of an old apartment building in a residential neighborhood. Their room faced a narrow intersection with no traffic light. Most nights, nothing passed except bicycles and the occasional taxi. One winter evening, after midnight, one of them noticed a woman standing at the corner. She had no umbrella, though the pavement was wet. Her coat was pale, and her hair looked wet, hanging so flat that at first it seemed plastered against her back. The roommate called the other over. Together, they watched from behind the curtain. The woman did not move. She did not look around. She simply stood beneath the street lamp, too still for someone waiting to cross. Then one roommate noticed the direction of her shoes. What they had taken for her back was not her back. She was facing their window. She was quite far away, 4 floors down across the narrow street, beyond the thin curtain and the window glass. There was no way anyone outside could notice them. The room light was off. Neither roommate had spoken, and yet, as soon as they realized she was facing their window, the woman raised her chin. Her mouth moved once. They could not have heard it from that distance. Still, they understood it. "There you are." That was what it felt like she had said. They leaped back from the curtain and sat on the floor with their backs against the wall. Nothing came up the stairs. Nothing touched the door. But for several minutes, water tapped softly against the outside of the window, though the rain had stopped. In the morning, there were no marks on the glass. Only the curtain was damp at the bottom, as if someone had pressed wet hair against it from the other side. The roommates moved out within a week. Neither of them chose a room facing an intersection again. The third account comes from a man who rented a small office down a back street behind a busy entertainment district. The building was old, with a bar on the first floor, a storage room on the second, and several narrow offices above. His room was on the third floor. It had yellowed wallpaper, a cracked sink, and one window facing the wall of the next building. The only strange thing was that when the contract was signed, the real estate agent handed over the keys while talking in an oddly hurried way. He said that if anyone worked late, they should keep a lighter nearby. Not necessarily to smoke, just a flame. The man laughed, but the agent did not. For the first month, nothing happened. Then, one night, after 1 o'clock, 2 staff members were checking invoices when the room grew colder. In the dark window, they saw a reflection that did not belong to either of them. Behind their desks, there was a human-shaped figure, as if covered from head to toe in white cloth. It stood so close that the cloth almost touched the backs of their chairs. One staff member remembered the lighter. When the flame appeared, the shadow turned toward them just once, then grew thin, faded, and disappeared. After that, they began leaving a lighter on every desk. The figure did not appear every night. Sometimes months passed with nothing. But when it came, the room always grew cold first, and it would vanish only when someone lit a cigarette or held up a small flame. The man finally called the real estate agent. The agent did not sound surprised. He only said, "It doesn't hurt anyone, so don't worry. If anything, when that thing is there, worse things stay away." The man asked what he meant, but the agent would not answer. He ended the lease the following spring. Even now, former staff members say they still sometimes have that same dream, especially around the full moon. In the dream, they are lying in that office under sleep paralysis. The window is black, the room is cold, and just before they wake, they realize something is standing outside the building. right beneath the window where it can look up into the room. Looking out at the town at night is not unusual. Everyone does it, from a balcony, from a hallway window, from a room where the light has been turned off. But there may be something in the distance that notices your gaze before you ever notice it. It does not need to run. It does not need to call out. It only has to raise one hand or stand beneath a window or wait where the darkness begins. That alone is strangely frightening, because the next time you look through your own glass, you cannot be certain that something beyond it is not staring back at you in the same way.